It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 243. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hello.
So, while she isn't actually on the show, and I'm sure we'll make some commentary when she actually returns to the show, Grace is now a doctor. So, if you have access to Grace, you should totally congratulate her on that, because that's been what she's been doing instead of hanging out with us.
Yep.
Ooh,
And
doctoring.
We're all super looking forward to her return.
Yes.
But also, it is freaking awesome that she got her doctorate.
Yes, that's so awesome.
Also,
So exciting.
her presentation was really cool. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah. Not
Anyway.
publicly available though, sorry folks.
No.
Yeah, no. But still, it was
But-
cool.
But based on the quality, I have to assume that she had to fight a very small snake. Possibly one of those adorable little garter snakes that blep and then hides in a pocket. So I'm not surprised she succeeded.
Wait, garter snake? It's not a garden snake?
No.
No.
Garter snake, yes.
We called a snake a garter snake?
Yes.
Am I the only one that finds that, like, kind of weird and creepy?
I mean, now that you say it, sure.
I mean, we name things after objects all the time.
It's
So
true.
not really.
I mean,
And
I don't know that
Garter has not always had the same meaning that it currently has.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
There is a character in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night who wears his stockings cross-gartered, and it just means that like there's kind of ribbons wrapped around his stockings.
Fair enough.
I don't know
the
how
more
long
you
ago
know.
the snake was named.
Probably a really long time ago.
Probably so. Snakes,
I mean,
snakes have
it
been
is
around
kind
for a long
of-
time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be thought of as ribbon-like. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
The
one thing that
specific name Sertalis is in reference to the snake's pattern resembling a striped garter strap.
Alright.
There you go.
Fair enough.
So one thing we didn't talk about last week that I think kind of just slipped our minds was the announcement of Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Pokemon Amazing Scotland Edition.
I'm so excited about this for incredibly stupid reasons. Like, I even recognize that they're incredibly stupid reasons.
Tam can wear a Tam.
I mean, that too.
Is he also going to beat on a Tam Tam?
No. Seriously, though, the intersection between Pokemon and Scottish Twitter has been amazing.
I must not follow that much Scottish Twitter.
I mean, I don't either, but I've seen plenty of stuff retweeted.
It's so
But yes,
good.
this Pokemon is set in not Britain, so the girl trainer has an adorable, Tam O'Shanter.
Aha.
And this caused a lot of commentary.
It's not to be confused with the Tam O'Shanter. That's different.
What is the difference between those two things?
The N and the T are in different order.
I don't know
But
why I asked.
When wearing a Tam O'Shanter, you talk like this.
Ah, man. I was afraid you were going to go down that path, but, I mean...
I wasn't intending to, but
But
Here
here
we
we are.
are.
Here we go again on our own.
Yeah, so, like, I haven't followed much about this, so... What is new and interesting other than the setting?
Don't know a
and
whole lot
it being
yet.
on the Switch.
I mean, it's on the Switch.
It's on the Switch.
It did show the starters, and they all look amazing. We know that it's set in not Great Britain, and there's not much more info than that yet.
This is, I think, kind of why it's been a long weird road down Scottish Twitter avenue, because there's really not a lot else to get into.
I mean, all I know is I will be maining Adorable Monkey Boy.
Sobble must be protected.
I like the Weird
Oh.
Water Million.
Who? Are these the starters?
Yeah, the
Yes.
starters were shown with the trailer.
I gotta say, none of the starters really spoke to me, really. They are all cute little boys, though.
I have had a few generations where I've just been underwhelmed by the starters.
I mean, this group, I would probably take the Fire Rabbit, but none of them grabbed onto my heart directly the way Rowlet did.
Rowlet is pretty amazing.
I always seem to gravitate towards the grass choice, and like for no apparent reason, but like I played as Bulbasaur and I played as Rowlet.
I'm like not the biggest fan of Chespin.
I really like Chespin.
I feel like Chespin is like, I don't know, a groundhog cosplaying. It's like a groundhog wearing a hat. I guess
Don't see how that's a negative.
That's fair. I guess it becomes a crazy power armored thing. That's kind of nuts. Anyway, I continue to be really interested to see, like, having experimented with Go, or having experimented with Let's Go, these kind of overlaps. I'm really interested to see where they go with, like, Pokemon mechanics in general.
Yeah. I would kind of love to see a hybrid, but I have a feeling this will be a more traditional.
Yeah, this is more traditional because they already showed like long grass and wild encounters and stuff like that.
My only problem with Let's Go was the fact that they didn't have Pro Controller support to where it would mimic using it in handheld mode.
My issue with Let's Go was and remains that it is too difficult to catch Pokemon even if you do everything right.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of space to improve that. Like, I don't necessarily think that Let's Go was... I liked Let's Go, but I don't necessarily think that it was the right answer to a lot of the kind of long-established, kind of stagnant designs. But I like that they're at least thinking about it. Like, hey, what else could we do in this space? If I never have to equip False Swipe or Hope, I'll be happy.
I think my biggest challenge with Pokemon in general is, like, I never have a clue whether or not an ability is worth upgrading to if it involves throwing away another ability. I always disliked that functionality because it seemed so permanent.
It hasn't been permanent for a while. Like, you've always been able to go back and say, no, actually, I wanted that thing. And also, they no longer have to decide on just the name anymore either. You can at least see what the ability does. I do understand that idea.
I'm pretty sure it will sell all the copies.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean...
It'll be interesting to see as they release more information about it.
So I don't have a great segue to this one, but I've been looking for a thing to do at work Magic-wise to get people into Magic, because I think it's a pretty good creative problem-solving and team-building game, or could be, but like I had a lot of caveats. Like, I wanted the buy-in to be fixed, and I wanted it to have like really low power magic, so that like it was the difference between winning and losing was pretty minimal. So I went down a bunch of different paths, like one of which was like, oh, I'll just make a common box and we'll make pauper decks out of it. But the problem I saw with that was that, you know, it really didn't give you any buy-in to your cards because it just felt like you were using someone else's cards. So the format that I finally landed on, and everyone is in process of making their decks now, is to basically have everyone buy a deck builder's toolkit. And like, that's all the cards that you can have, which to me greatly minimized like yes, there's random packs there and you could just like get better packs than other people, but the difference of what a pack isn't going to make that much difference in the long run, I think. And those things have kind of a similar assortment of cards, so everybody would be starting from a very similar place. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I think it will work fairly well.
So what is that? What is a deck builder's set?
Okay, so Deck Builder's Toolkit is something they've had for a while. I don't know when exactly they started it, but I know it's been around since well before Magic Origin. And the structure is always the same. It's 4 decks of cards, or 4 packs of cards from recent sets, a 100-card land pack, and 115 semi-randomized cards. And the 115 cards tend to be like a couple copies of a bunch of different staples. So like right now with the Ravnica, they just released another one with Ravnica Allegiance. And it has like 2 copies of every Guildgate, for example.
Okay.
Most of them have like a couple copies of each color combination of the different land cycles that are the non-rare multicolor lands.
Okay.
So at least it adds a little bit of...
So you can build 2 multicolor decks.
Yeah, you could build multicolor decks out of it. And they tend to have a roughly even assortment of each color. So the differentiator really is like what you get in those 4 packs.
And so, like, is it just a bunch of commons that are sort of the staples? Like, almost like how Origin or Duels used to do it, where it's like, here's a bunch of common cards that you're going to work with, and then your random packs will be how you differentiate.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Except for it's not just commons. It's commons and uncommons.
Sure.
So, like, I picked up one of these during the Ixalan block before Amonkhet rotated out. And it had, like, copies of a Braid in there. It also had, like, what's the black removal that was so popular?
Fatal Push.
Fatal Push, yeah. So it had, like, a Fatal Push.
Right.
So it's like, these are things that are seeing play. So we're going to give you a couple of those to intersperse with your commons. And the main reason why I went down this path was, like, there are people that have played Magic before in their past. There are people who have never played Magic before. And there are people that, like, are very seasoned at Magic. So I was trying to create a format or come up with something that would basically mitigate the differences between those people.
So could you theoretically with this thing build a pretty reasonable 60 card deck of any of the, like, 10 guilds?
Yeah, you could. I mean, they're not going to be heavily aligned to the theme of the guild, but you can definitely build a Golgari, or you can build, a Rakdos, because you're going to get enough cards to functionally build that. Now, you may have to throw some jank in there, but I guess that's part of it too. Is like forcing you to play with stuff that isn't necessarily a bomb.
Oh no, that's reasonable. Like, that's fine. I guess my point is there like 10 evenly constructed decks that are sort of your baseline, so anyone can play from that point forward?
Yeah, for the most part, there's enough cards to build.
I'd expect there to be
any of the color
5
combinations.
decks, wouldn't there?
Yeah. I mean, in theory, you could build 5 different decks out of there.
Oh, okay. Like, is it specifically Ravnica Allegiances or something?
Yeah, that make it per set.
Well, so what it is they give you an actual, like, whenever you buy one of these, it will be a mix of usually 4 sets that are in rotation. So for this one, the Ravnica Allegiance one has Dominaria, M19, Ravnica Allegiance, and Guilds of Ravnica.
Oh, I thought these were set specific.
No, they're not. So, like, that 115 cards of Assorted are among those sets.
So you're just getting generically good, decent cards.
Yeah, they're staples. That's what they're designed to be, as staples.
Got it.
And then, like, for the packs in the Ravnica Allegiance one, there's 1 pack of M19, 1 pack of Dominaria, 1 pack of Allegiances, and 1 pack of Guilds. So, like, no matter how good a pull you get, there's very little that you can do to, like, completely offset the tempo of everyone else's deck.
Sure. Have you played much with these yet?
I've played a couple matches with a couple of us that already have ours up and running. And, I'm going Rakdos for the time being. But I may extend it out to do, like, a 3-color to basically give me more options. And I do not remember what 3-color combination black, white, red is, but...
Mardu,
yeah. Right now, that seems to be where I have most power.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine with that you would probably converge on, like, a 3-color deck.
Like, I could do Naya as well, like, but it seemed like there was more synergy in Mardu. But yeah, like, I think that's going to be the best option, is not to force myself into 2 colors, but do a 3-color. Because really, with all of those gates, that's a lot of mana fixing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been kind of looking for is... So one of the things Magic is really good at, and, well, arguably really good at, is allowing you to play very asymmetric decks. And kind of the challenge with a lot of draft and also what you're kind of doing is that you don't get to those asymmetric decks. Like, for a deck to be successful in that format, it's probably running some manner of creatures, spells, and trying to sort of win via a creature-based plan with some removal in it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, there's no way you're gonna have enough spells to do a pure spell deck.
But like that's the thing, is that's sort of like an aggro-y mid-range, like it of the decks, the common deck archetypes you see in Magic. It's kind of ignoring two of them. Like, it's not allowing much space for a control deck to thrive. It's definitely not really allowing for combo to succeed.
I mean, and ultimately, like, my argument there is control is only actually fun for one person.
I do get that.
And the idea is that, like, honestly, for me, the funnest time in Magic was when we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Yeah, same.
So this is an attempt to kind of capture that in a bottle. And my thought is, like, whenever we get tired of this combo of cards, like, there's a couple options. You could just start from scratch over again, or you could say, okay, now everybody go add 3 packs of cards to this.
Yeah.
To widen
some
your
friends
pool.
and I did something very similar in college, where everybody started with a starter deck and I don't remember how many boosters, and then like every couple of weeks everybody buy a booster.
Interestingly, Lightseeker Sealed is take a starter deck and some boosters.
How well does Lightseeker Sealed work?
It'd have been nice if we could have picked the starter deck after we got our boosters.
That's kind of always the problem with whenever I've played that format. I've seen a bunch of things that do that, actually.
I would have totally loved to do draft, but, like, with different skill levels.
Oh no, I get it.
Draft would be fun for the people that can draft already, but not fun at all for the people that don't know the cards.
Yup.
Yep.
I don't know. I'll report in as this goes, but, like, we're kind of winging it as we go.
I mostly mention that because Ash and I played a game this week called Gruff, and one of the things that I'm really excited about Gruff is it seems like it's going to allow me to play a bunch of different asymmetric decks. I might be wrong about that. I might find out that, nope, I need to be attacking to win. But, like, there is a bunch of different, like, pseudo win states, and they're not necessarily, like, somebody might be really focused on trying to, bring your life total to 0. Another deck might be trying to destroy all of your creatures. And another deck might be just trying to come up with some combo that causes damage to kill you. And I'm really excited for starting to deck build. The game is interesting in its limitations. It makes it more of a deciding. You're basically playing as a Pokemon master with 3 different Pokemons, and your deck is based on the cards for that Pokemon. You pick 8 of that Pokemon's 15 cards, shuffle those together into a 24 card deck, and then you're playing with that. And the actions on your turn you take with those is really interesting as well. Because you might attack, or you might be focused on, just making your things bigger and bigger and bigger and trying to turn them into batteries to fuel some sort of an engine. I don't know, Ash, what was your thought? Have you given much thought to the deck construction possibilities from it?
I didn't get a good look at the deck construction rules before I bought it, other than I did ask about some of the restrictions as to, like, character-specific cards, and then found out that, well, actually, they're all character-specific cards. It seems like there's a lot of space there, but also, like, it's hard to even, like, begin to wrap my head around, because there's a lot of goats.
There's a lot of goats.
The name didn't give it away. Or Pokemon-like things in Gruff are all goats. Mutant goats. It's a weird
mutant
game.
Goats. Okay.
It's a weird game.
It's a weird game. Or Deep One goats.
One of those.
I mean, I immediately went to Dresden when you said the name.
But yes, you're Billy Goat's Gruff. But yeah, like that was sort of my thing too. Is it's like, so I have I think there's 16 goats, and from that I'm choosing 3 of them to put together, and from those 3 goats I'm selecting 8 cards each to become my deck, and each of the goats have their own base statistics and base rules that I have to balance against the cards that they give me access to. It seems like it has a lot of deck construction space while also not presenting me with a blank slate that is literally go build a deck and like becomes paralyzing. It seems somewhat harder to build a non-functional deck with it.
I bet I could do it if I tried.
Oh, I bet I could, but like I building
Like, for
a
example,
functional deck is hard in Magic. Like figuring
That's
out
fair.
that, you know what, 5-color garbage plate, you probably don't have the mana fixing for that. Maybe you want to be sticking to 2 colors, and maybe you want to be, you know, having a curve of cards that starts below 4.
I don't know what
Like
you're talking about.
maybe you need to plan to be able to cast spells early on in the game and not just put, you know, 40 Shivan Dragons into your deck.
I'll be honest, this is where my Magic deck building initially just kind of failed.
You know what? But that's the thing. That makes sense. Like, of course I want as many dragons as I can put in my deck.
Yeah, dragons are awesome.
The dragons are great, and there's nothing stopping you from putting all the good stuff in your deck. Oh wait, it doesn't work, so you got to put a bunch of stuff you don't want in your deck.
Yes! That's what I think sucks about Magic. Like, straight up, I think deck building is way too hard in Magic. And that's why I like games that sort of give you a blueprint. Like, make a couple fewer, like... I want my rules to guide me towards making a functional deck.
So you want it to be more like an army list, in that, like, here's a bunch of things that have synergy, pick the ones that you want to play the most?
I don't know that I would necessarily even be saying I feel list building. Some games are better at list building than others.
I do like the concept behind list building. Like, the concept there is you are required to bring some combination of things that gives you a functional list out the gate, and then you can supplement it. Like, the implementations are generally iffy.
But yeah, like, this is the thing, is anything that's going to force me to make like some upfront decisions. Like, this is also why I was really intrigued by Star Wars Destiny, where like out the gate you have a certain number of points you're spending on your heroes, and from there they sort of push you in certain paths towards deck building. Like, I want my rules to be pushing me towards deck building, where things I'm building seem to make sense to me. And then it becomes a lot more modular. Like, I'm going to put together a list for Gruff, and then if I'm finding, like, hey, this isn't real, like, this has some really obvious weaknesses, how would I shore that up? I might just be like, well, I can take one of these goats, one of the goats I'm using less, and see if I can't shore up my weaknesses.
Yeah, I like the concept where it's like, hey, this is a module. You can swap the modules around. Like, here's a bunch of things that in play all work together. It's like it's almost like the idea of, not that I'm going to say this and I'm going to have like 5 people say I would hate that, but the idea is like you construct your deck or you construct your list not from individual units, but like, here's a group of 4 units, here's a group of 6 cards, and they come together in groups, and you put those together because those work together.
So I actually kickstarted a game that works basically like that. Like, you have a character represented as a deck of cards. They have an origin and a class and the character themselves. Each of those is like just 20 cards.
So would you, because Gruff kind of does that in the, like, you have to use the cards from the Gruff.
This is even more limited than that, because
yeah,
it is those cards and just those cards.
Yeah, because you can't select from, like, you don't get to choose 8 from 15. You're just like, here's 20, that's your deck. Huh. I still think that's interesting because, like, presumably you get to choose those, like, can you put together any 3 combinations of those things?
I can't imagine they would all be equally good, but theoretically.
Oh, sure. But that's, like, that is where deck building becomes interesting. Finding out what is and is not good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if choosing black meant you were handed 15 cards, and choosing red meant you were handed another 15 cards. And together, you now have a red-black deck, but there's only 15 cards.
Yeah. I think I still prefer more combinations than that, but I do like things that limit combinations. This is also why I like deck building in Commander. Deck building in Commander is a fascinating exercise, because it starts off with the very important question of who's my commander going to be.
I do also actually have a commander deck that mostly starts the curve at 4, because reasons. I do also have a commander deck that pretty much does start the curve at 4 because reasons.
I have a commander deck that absolutely does not care who its commander is. Commander is just an excuse. But it still starts there.
I actually think that's something that what you're doing, Bel, is really good at, because like if you're building a 2-color deck, your card pool is going to be pretty limited and also pretty static. It's going to be a blue-black deck that you build is going to be 90% like a blue-black deck that another player in your group would build.
Right, yeah.
Because you're mostly working off of the same card pool.
I mean, the other part of this that was important for ours was like your buy-in is a maximum of $20, which is the Walmart price for a deck builder's toolkit. You can get it cheaper elsewhere, but yeah, like that's kind of the baseline of the maximum you would have to spend, which is like that's a huge part of the problem that a lot of people have with games like Magic, is knowing it's an endless pit that you can pour money into, which is in part why I think a lot of the, I don't know, constructed card games that have a much smaller pool are more appealing to folks.
Yeah, LCGs, there's a sweet spot for getting into LCGs, and if you miss it, it's like, oh well, I've got to catch up forever. But there's also this like that's a really cool space, because it's like, oh, I bought in really early, and as long as I continue to enjoy it, I keep on paying a little bit more. But every time I pay a little bit more, I'm getting everything that everybody else has.
Feels kind of like the DLC model for Paradox games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually does.
And I like that. I think that's cool. It's just hard to find the right LCG at the right time.
Yeah. One of the things that's going on with one of my problems with LCGs is I also feel like they are very symmetrical. You're mostly trying to do the same thing as other people. Like, it doesn't feel like we're playing two different games, and I kind of like that feeling with Magic. Magic is super good at it.
We'll miss you, Netrunner.
Yeah, seriously, I love Netrunner for exactly that reason. Netrunner is so good at that. And one of the things that I liked about Netrunner doing it is that it would, with some exceptions, because there's always some, what it would do is it would tell you, you would be playing a different game than your opponent, and even across multiple opponents, you would have opponents trying to do different things. But the flow of the game was such that you could figure out what it was your opponent was doing in the course of play. It wasn't like, oh, this deck just shuts you down. You had no chance against this deck from the word go. They were playing a totally different game than you, and you were unprepared to meet them in their game, which often happens when you've got asymmetric play like that, where you like don't realize that it's quite as asymmetric as it is, and then are put in a position where like you were just unprepared to even have a chance at winning, or even like playing competently.
Well, you run into situations where too late you realize, oh, I was just playing the wrong game.
Yeah, which is it's what makes asymmetric gameplay so hard to do when it's competitive.
I feel like Keyforge has some aspects of that, because like since the objective is to forge a number of keys, or one of the objectives, it kind of feels like you're not necessarily directly competing with the other player, or at least not in the same way that Magic does.
Keyforge is definitely a weird game. But yeah, I agree.
So since that conversation is winding down a little bit, another thing that happened this week is, actually today, Anthem released a big old patch.
This was the patch that they were like, oh yeah, we'll release it next week.
Yeah, this is like a week late, but it added in a ton of other stuff. Like this was the patch that like, oh, we didn't have time to put in the whole green and white items stop dropping at level 30. But they also shored up a ton of other stuff. They seem to have made quick play work a lot better, at least for missions. They added in quick play for strongholds, and it seems to largely be jacked up. There were a lot of things that were happening that were apparently not intended to be happening, like weapons weren't scaling. Weapons now scale, and man, does it feel like a totally different game. Grandmaster
weapons
1...
not scaling, that's kind of a thing.
Well, so, like, I thought I was doing okay at Grandmaster 1, but apparently, no, I really wasn't, because, like, today has been a night and day difference. I am just shredding things in Grandmaster 1.
Huh.
Because, like, weapons do what they apparently were supposed to all along.
Yeah,
and that makes everything die so much faster.
Yeah, you shoot things with guns, and you feel like they were hit with a gun. Like, it's... I was noticing that even on my stuff. On the other hand, coming from the Storm perspective, where I don't really use guns, I feel much weaker, just comparatively speaking. Like, my stuff did not scale.
Well, so part of that, too, is, like, weapons can also basically be buff sticks, and that's a thing I've noticed a lot. Like, oh, I'm going to use this weapon because it's going to, like, triple the amount of armor that I have. I'm just going to keep it equipped, even though I'm really going to run around with a sword and slash everything up. So, especially, like, they've eased the transition to Grandmaster, but I feel like you still don't have a lot of options when you first enter. And I think that's maybe where you're sitting at right now, Tam, is that, like, you don't have the options that Kier would have given you.
Yeah, I really just need my numbers to be bigger.
You need masterwork abilities, right?
So what?
Masterwork abilities.
You need masterwork abilities.
Yeah, and that's going to be real painful.
Abilities are guaranteed drops from Grandmaster Strongholds.
Yep. Yeah, we can run a bunch of those and...
Yeah, but there's specific abilities that I need.
I mean, yes.
And that's going to be painful.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to run it until you get the thing. Like, that was the boat I was in as a ranger. Like, there was a specific build that I was going after, and it took me forever to get that build. However, what I did notice is as soon as I started getting masterwork abilities, even if it wasn't the build I wanted, it was still beneficial for me to use that ability.
Yeah, that's not going to happen for the Storm. The Storm has... So, there's basically 4 abilities. There's 2 ability pairs on the Storm that allow me to play the way I enjoy playing the Storm. And you kind of need both of the pairs to make them work. And it'll be a thing. We're going to see how it goes. It isn't...
Tomorrow I am fully willing to run some strongholds.
Yeah, I might take a look and give it a go. But yeah, it's not really like... The Storm doesn't really operate like some of the other classes where it's like, oh, this ability would be the ideal, but I can do with this other thing until I get something better. It's like, oh no, this doesn't work until I have these 2 abilities. I have to play a totally, like an absolutely different game that involves like having good guns and stuff. And that'll be interesting.
I mean, I still feel like the game needs a lot of tweaks, especially with the frequency of loot drops. But, like, the gameplay itself feels really good.
Yeah.
As someone who's watched a lot of these games, it feels like BioWare is having to learn a lot of things that other people have learned in a very, very compressed period of time.
It's a thing that happens.
I mean, because, like, functionally this is a vastly different game than, like, SWTOR was. And they're having to, learn some of the lessons that, Diablo learned.
They're entering into a crowded market.
Yes, like, there are definitely case studies on Diablo that they should have paid attention to, maybe?
Yeah, but to be fair, they also really didn't pay attention to a lot of the lessons that they should have for SWTOR.
I mean, the people associated with this game, the people associated with SWTOR are mostly not the same people.
Well, I mean, some of the staff that worked on this were out of the Austin office, too. It seems to have been, like, split between Edmonton and Austin. And I realize that's different working teams, but still. I will say, like, Colossus feels a hell of a lot better to me now, post-patch. I can run around and stomp on things and give 0 shits about anything else, and it makes... There was also a fairly significant patch in Warframe.
That's putting it a little mildly.
Warframe does not mess around with patches, like, ever.
Warframe also updated on Thursday. They added a new Warframe added a new event. They changed how the melee system works, which is really the big change for this patch. And they did a little bit of other tweaking. The big change, really, though, is that melee now, quick melee is gone.
Yes.
Okay.
You hit your melee button, now go into a stance. You now go into your stance combos.
Which is
Without having to switch weapons.
super disorienting for me. Like, whoa.
Mostly this is a positive,
That sounds really.
but it's a little weird if you were using some weapons that had very different quick melee than combo stances.
Like all of the weapons.
Like every pole arm.
I mean, I largely just hit a button as I ran through things,
Yep.
and I assume that was quick melee.
Yep.
That's what that was.
That would be quick melee.
I never switched to a melee weapon ever.
I'm not even sure I knew how to switch to a melee.
You hold the switch weapon button, which now doesn't do anything. Now that button just switches between your primary and secondary.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a whole thing. It's interesting. I think that even though it's like super disruptive to my experience, I think that it's good in general because it means that a bunch of stuff that I just never paid attention to for reason, because it didn't feel good for me, means that now I can actually like experience entire sections of the game, like the melee combo system or stances, or go on down the line. Like they had all of these melee mechanics that I just didn't care about because I never wanted to switch to my melee weapon.
So is staying in melee a viable thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It always has been, actually. Now it's even better because once you shoot something, you can just do that.
Yep.
Yeah. It also means...
Now you don't have the problem of like, oh, whoops, I murdered everybody near me in melee, and now I'm getting shot at, and I have to like switch weapons to go back to not doing that. Now it's just like, nope, I'll hop off a shot at that annoying guy.
Oh no, there's a shield osprey that is really annoying to jump and hit. Let me just shoot it and then get back to killing things with my sword.
Yes.
I think that it ultimately makes like pure melee builds more viable.
Was anyone actually using channeling?
Yes.
No.
Yes. I was using it for like
life strike.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that now.
Alt fire.
Ah.
Alt fire is channeling?
Yes.
Got it.
Life strike was the only real use for channeling.
Life strike?
Life strike is a mod that gives you health steal on channeled melee attacks.
Ahaha.
And also increases the energy cost to do channeled melee attacks.
I was going to say, I sure never did it.
As an offensive thing to do, it's not real useful.
No, it was not a good idea. It was, I need more of my squishy red bar to come back. But yeah, this patch was melee revamp part the first. Apparently there's several of these. And like...
The way they phrased it was melee 2.99 something.
Yeah.
The version with the stance combos is melee 2, in case you were wondering about that weird thing.
But yeah, like, their part 1 melee was, okay, we changed the way that melee controls just work in this video game. Full stop. And then also we changed the animations and the particle effects for, like, every weapon in the game. And we changed a bunch of the functionality of, like, melee stuff. Like, just not just the animations, but, like, also how these abilities work. And that's pretty impressive. And then, just because they weren't done with that patch, they released a new area, a new boss, a new frame, and a whole bunch of new other stuff.
No new area, but new frame, new boss who is not out yet. But
a new event quest. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's out in Orbalis, so the Fortuna area. And yeah, a new shield-based tank Warframe who looks like
energy
Daria.
Shield or physical shield.
Energy shield. If you want physical shield, you gotta go talk to Volt or Garuda. It's he's definitely an interesting one.
I love this frame so much.
She also looks like Zarya if Zarya decided to do more weightlifting.
Yes, she looks amazing. Was it you who made the comment that she could break you with the muscle of her choice?
That wasn't me, but it's definitely true.
Yeah. I really love, you can sometimes tell like what their inspirations were, and like female bodybuilders were the inspiration for Hildra in this new frame, and they're really cool. It's just a really, really striking, unique, cool look, which is hard to do when you have as many as they have. And I feel like their art style, while it is still very like
Tech
bio robot, there's a lot more. It doesn't all look like, oh hey, I grew this person in a vat and they look real creepy. like there's actual technology involved in them, and you can imagine it's a person in a suit.
Is there a person in the suit though?
I mean, maybe. Spoilers. There might be a person in the suit.
I don't know. I'm definitely enjoying the new stuff to do. Not that I don't have so much stuff already to do in this game.
And there's a lot you can do. But it's not like not having done it. It does a really good job of not having done it. I don't feel like I'm behind. There's stuff I can do, and if I want to do this stuff, it's there for me to do. But there's nothing I can't do. It's like I'm not like blocked from doing stuff because I didn't grind my way up.
About that.
And there are some things that you kind of just do have to do to get there, but like compared to almost every other game like this I've played,
I would still love to see them release a series of primitives that make them look more mech.
a lot of them have those skins now.
They mostly haven't done this, but Tenogen's got you covered.
Yeah, that's
I keep forgetting that's a thing.
I think that's such a cool thing that they do, where they're like, hey, we'll let our fans come up with visuals, and if you like them, we'll make them available in game. And a lot of the fan stuff is, hey, let's get away from this like specific art style. Sometimes it's so that we can have a different creepy art style, but you know.
I mean, I did notice earlier that there's a Nyx Carnifex skin, and that skin is named that way for a reason.
Yep.
Creepy. So, you seem to be doing a bunch of damage with Hildren, though. Like, is she also a room clearing frame?
Yes.
Like, how does that work?
Basically, instead of having a mana bar, an energy bar, Hildren just draws upon her shields for things.
Okay.
And so she's also got an exalted weapon, like just a unique weapon to her, which is charge your shields into fireballs. It's amazing. So there's that, but then she also has a space around her. Your allies she basically floods everyone around her with her shield energy, either blowing people up near her or overcharging her allies' shields.
Cool.
Which is really cool. And she's like draining her own shields to do it, but as long as you can keep your shields going, you just flood people with damage. And I've kind of built towards making that ability really strong. And then she's got an ult that I never remember what it does or how to use it.
It is a very large amount of CC, but restricts you to only using that fireball pistol thing while it's up.
I mean, I was kind of already doing that, so it's probably fine. They did have an event that I guess they've apologized for.
What's that? Right?
What are you referring to?
The whoops suffer for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. They have said that they flew, what was their term? Flew a little too close to the sun on the hour-long endurance runs?
Yeah. They basically...
They're trying to figure out how to structure this thing, and their first try was not the best. But
yeah. But it was funny. And it's like...
They're trying to come up with hard challenges to throw at their players for big rewards on a weekly challenge marker. And so this one was go to a specific very hard survival and stay there for 60 minutes with only killing enemies and not using any of the like provided air that you need. And this is A, very hard, and B, 60 minutes that gets harder at the end.
Yeah.
So we failed this at minute 52. And let me tell you, that's demoralizing.
Yeah, it's not a great feeling.
Because then you're like, well, I still want those rewards. Do I now have to go and try and do this again? And then if at minute 52 I fail again, what's that mean? Ugh.
Man, yeah, that sounds like misery. And the problem is like if you checkpointed it up, then it's not what they were intending anyway.
Yeah, they said they're going to have to figure out a different way to do these in the future.
Yeah.
But then for season 1 of Nightwave, well, we got what we got. So expect more of these next week.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
So how exactly does one acquire the new tanky frame?
Currently, you buy
her on the market.
Yeah, I bought her on the store.
Okay.
It was,
so you just buy the
The actual answer is she drops from the new event boss who is not out yet. Her blueprint is from a reputation that I do not have. So it's probably faster to get her by farming platinum and then buying her in general. Which is a weird state to be in, but here we are. go do a few alt runs, they'll pay for her.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely thrilled with this. At least with Gara, when Gara's quest was not available, so they made Gara available briefly on the market for a little while. So you could still earn her parts, even though you couldn't get her blueprint normally.
Oh, I see.
So in its current state, do you even have to craft it, or are you just buying it outright?
If you buy a Warframe on the market, you're buying it outright. For the most part, Warframes that aren't the original Warframe have their blueprint available from something else. Therefore, you can't buy the blueprint in the market. For some of the old ones, basically anything available from boss kills, the blueprint is in the market for credits, not for platinum.
Yeah.
I do wish they'd do a little more separation of this is in the market for credits and this is in the market for platinum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes a little hard to find stuff.
So, but most of the Warframes, are there Warframes that you can buy for credits in the market right now?
No, there are no Warframes you can buy for credits in the market.
But there are plans?
But you need to buy several blueprints for Warframes in the market. Like Frost Blueprint and Excalibur's Blueprint, those are all in the market.
Ah.
Whereas Gara's Blueprint is a quest reward, Nidus' Blueprint is a quest reward. Any Prime Warframe has their blueprint, of course, in Relics. It is a non-intuitive state of affairs.
That's the answer for a lot of things in Warframe.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
Yeah, it's a game with a billion interlocking systems that have changed quite a bit over the years.
So Tam, I'm somehow doubting we can squeeze the last topic in
probably
the
fair.
amount of time.
That's probably fair.
Anyone have any other short topics? Like extremely short topics? Or comments about anything we talked about?
Have you guys done
deafening silence says
I was actually curious. Have you guys done the any of the like big events going on right now?
In Anthem, Warframe, or both?
In Warframe.
I have not. I know how to do one of them.
Which one?
The Thermal Fractures event in Fortuna.
How's that one work out?
You basically need to pick up a thing from a specific spot, then go seal some of the thermal fractures all around the map.
Aha. Yeah, I'm actually doing that one right now. I'm curious when it ends.
When you've done 4.
Oh, when you've done 4? Okay. Now, does that count as 4 thermal fractions sealed?
Counts as 7.
Oh, okay.
You do 4.
Oh, doesn't it only count as 7 if you can do all 4 with one whatever?
That's with one canister.
Yes. Well, that's probably going to happen then. Why does it count as 7?
I don't know why they chose 7.
That makes so very little sense.
Numbers have meanings.
Means sort of.
So you haven't done any of the, like, what is it, decrypting?
Find and scan things?
Yeah.
I haven't done any of that.
As far as Anthem events, it looks like the Kill the Titans for a decal is going on.
I like that they reworked the way you fight Titans.
How do you
yes,
fight
they
Titans
are so
now?
much better.
So Titans had a resistance, like an innate resistance if you didn't hit them with their weak point of like 90 to 100%.
Yeah, of zeros pop up.
Yeah.
Lots of zeros.
So that base resistance has been reduced to 70 to 75% depending on element, which is already a big plus because it means you can actually damage them when they're not actively trying to kill you. Their weak points are visible, are like available more for longer for each cycle, and they're a little bit less ridiculously aggressive with like firing multiple abilities off at once. And on the lesser Titans, the weak points are always active, so you don't have to wait for them to open up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because fights with Titans often seemed like a lot of running around, dodging stuff, and murdering elementals, waiting for the Titan to do the thing that you could shoot.
Yeah, they were kind of tedious. Like, I find Titans the least difficult of the, I guess, 2 or 3 major similar enemy types, but the least interesting. And I think this should make them die faster, but be more interesting while they're doing it.
Yeah.
Which is good. They've also seemed to have tweaked a bunch of the enemy types to make them behave a little bit more distinctly, which is good.
In some cases, this is working really well. Other cases, not as much. Like, gunners are just cheap right now in that they never seem to have to.
Oh yeah, gunners are like, hey, you really want to crowd control these people. But I do kind of like that there's a reason to crowd control now other than, like, because it sets up a combo. I mean, it also does that, but...
Enemies actually pay attention to crowd control?
More or less, yeah. Like, especially if you're using frost-based crowd control, Fire does its own crowd control as well, in that while they're on fire, they kind of like walk back and forth trying to put themselves.
Ah.
But yeah, so if you didn't get in on the last round of Titans, you should totally do them so you can get a questionable looking decal.
It's very orange.
It's very orange.
It's very orange. If you want to look like Tang, then it may be for you. But I think that's probably a show.
All right.
Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.